Did the Emperor plan to accelerate the psychic evolution of humanity to speed up the process of his great work? What could activate such a device? And how would it make people into Psykers? Well friends, let's find out, and welcome to another 40k video. This engine was part of the Emperor's great work, going back to the time of the heresy. The book Faith and Fire by James Swallow goes into the need for the engine. With each passing century, more and more Psykers are born within the Imperium, far more than the Adeptus Ministorum will admit to. These are not mutant throwbacks, they are the hand of human evolution struggling to exert itself. The fools of the Ordo Malleus try to stem the tide, but they are blind to the truth. The progression of mankind's psychic potential is inevitable. That is the will of the Emperor, to shepherd it, not destroy it. He knew that one day all mankind would develop the power of the mind. It is our destiny. But of course, Horus messed it up. That destiny is where we could be if not for his actions. The Emperor would have led us there. Instead, he lies trapped on the golden throne, hobbled and frozen, and even with his death, the Imperium relies so much upon Psykers. If the Psyker is such a canker, then why do we rely on them to light the way for our starships, to carry our communications, the fight on our battlefields? Where's your answer to that dichotomy? The Empire of Man would be in ruins without their kind, and if we could become them, we would know no boundaries. We're informed the Emperor left something on the planet. Now to shield it partly from detection, and perhaps to dampen the effects of it as it draws on the power of the warp, this Psi engine is within a null keep, and the engine itself is deep underground. There have been many experiments performed by Lahain's men trying to enhance the minds of the Psykers they find on the planet. A powerful one is needed to activate the engine. So you know the why, but what does this device look like? Lahain had to think, to look at the thing. The motion of the rings, the slow orbit of the metallic rods within them, their movement made him light-headed. It was a marvel of ancient and lost technology, the way that disparate components worked without touching one another, or apparently connecting in any way. The engine was as large as a house, yet it floated above the floor of the chamber, with no effort, steady as a rock. Nothing held it up but the azure glow. The tech adepts had once tried to explain the method of the sciences behind it, but Lahain had dismissed them. It was enough for him to know that the engine was the creation of the God Emperor. Now this engine has many names. By most it's simply called the engine. Other names are the Psi Magnus Apparat, Annulus Rex, the God Hand, one for Berserk fans there perhaps. But how was this device uncovered? There are mentions of the Master of Mankind's works, of the secret machinations he was about in the laboratoria beneath the Holy Palace on Terra. In Forbidden Tombs, Lahain had discovered scraps of old creed that the current generation of the Ministorum had declared unavailable. He collected references to things that flew in the face of the current beliefs, names that none dared to speak, talk of star children and the birth of new gods. Through all his gathered secrets, he traced one thread, unravelling it from the tapestry of the God Emperor's clouded legacy. That strand of causality, again a good Berserk reference, spanned the light years that stretched from Terra to Never. Undeniable proof that this distant world was touched by his hand, just as it was coloured by the passage of the warp. It was plain to see once the pieces were assembled, and the priest lord saw it with shining eyes. The engine was the Emperor's bequest to humanity, to Victor Lahain himself. Like a sentinel, it had waited here beneath the stone walls of the Null Keep. Now the machine itself is smartly built near its energy source. The rings of the ancient device bask in this ruddy glow, picking up speed as the power from the geothermal tap increased. So what does it do? And this is the real interesting bit. Well, the device draws on the power of the warp and needs a powerful Psyker to power it, rather like the Golden Throne. We are told during the novel that its purpose was to help transform humanity into a psychic race, to accelerate that evolution. A soul is needed to activate the engine, to act as an ignition, and once done, the one on the throne will be transformed into a psychic being. So it seems the engine could change humans who are not psychics into ones who are. Now why would the Emperor need this? If he relies on evolution and his plan to take humanity into the webway as they become Psykers, it could take a long time and not fit his short time frame. And this device could have accelerated that plan and allowed him to become a ruler of Psykers and take them into a webway much sooner than the genetic moment would have come. In this next part, a man takes the throne to act as the ignition. Taurus Vaughn's mind held on to those visions of catastrophe as his towering rage boiled inside him. The tight confines of the machine throne coiled about his body, tightening around his skin and pressing invisible forces into his brain. But at the same time, the resonating engine was filling him with impossible power, charging his crude flesh with reserves of psychic potential beyond anything he could comprehend. His mind was drowning in a screaming sea of churning raw emotion, the spinning rings slowly forming a conduit through him into the soul-shattering madness of warp space. Vaughn's thoughts were slipping away from him, the matter of his skin and bone becoming less and less defined. As the machine absorbed him, in moments he would become a ghost of the man he was. With sudden blinding clarity, he understood what was happening to him. What it was that Lahane had conspired to do. In the crudest, most basic sense, the ancient psionic device was no different from any other engine. To fully bring itself to optimal capacity, it required a spark of ignition, a scrap of human kindling to set it running to full power. "You are the spark," the priest lord's words echoed in the blazing halls of his mind. It was inconceivable, but of course this was 40k, and the engine is destroyed when the Sisters of Battle blunder in, think it's heretical, and warp tainted. The ignition, as it was destroyed, threw a bow wave of air compressed into a hazy white ring, slamming the Sister of Battle out of the dying energy nimbus and against the sheer walls of the volcano's flue. She fell, clawing at black stone and adamantium decking. With her organic components abruptly immolated, the spinning rings lost all synchronization and clashed with an ear-shattering cacophony. Metals that had been forged in the hearts of long-dead neutron stars and etched with the blood of artisans from 1,000 planets came apart. The rings fractured, dashed against one another, and lost all coherence. The aura field popped like a bubble, and the machinery of the Emperor's lost engine fell, the rest of the distance, to the waiting deep of the magma core below. Somewhere down there, what remained of the High Ecclesiarch, Lord Victor Lahane of Norrock, boiled away into greasy vapours. And on that grimdark note, we wrap up today's video. What do you think to the Psi engine and its role within the great work of the Master of Mankind? I think it's a nice expansion on the lore and on the Lord of Humanity's plan. Tell me what you think. Comment down below.